Attention, fellow Marines! This is the briefing for our next target, Doom the Roguelike, also known as DRL, Doom RL, whatever. This one goes by a few names. First of all, let's get this out of the way. Screw the roguelike craze of recent years, okay? It's a buzzword now for anything with a hint of procedural generation, random elements, and the potential for infinite replayability. It's semantics at the end of the day, but this one's an actual, real roguelike, developed by one, excuse the pronunciation, Kornel Kisilevich of Chaos Forge. Maybe a bit of a noteworthy side note is the graphic tileset by Derek Yu of Spelunky fame. Alright then, what is it about? I'm honestly gonna stress one thing I found out about this game, and that is, if you have never, and I mean never ever played an actual roguelike, this is probably the best game to start. But Yanni, that doesn't make sense. How can Doom be turned into an easy to pick up true roguelike game? It actually translates really freaking well. The keybinds are nice and concise, they're easy to recheck on the fly, and on top of that, it supports mouse controls very extensively with the help of a few modifier keys. It's got enough mechanics and quirks running beneath the hood to be called a true roguelike, but at the same time there isn't any clutter going on, it's just really easy to read. Every hotkey and keystroke here serves a purpose, and it really does make for a super streamlined and an incredibly easy to pick up and try game. So once again, give it a go if you find games of this type daunting. You really won't find a better alternative. Okay, then it's time to get your feet wet. You'll have to choose from one of the 3 classes with differences we'll come to later on, and then it's story time, so get ready. Shit goes wrong, and then it's time to get your ass handed to you on a pentagram-shaped platter. Right away you'll notice that the UI reads easily and borrows from the standards of its ancestors. You got the ammo counts, damage dice, rounds in the clip, health, all the important stuff right there. The inventory is slot based instead of being limited by weight units, and it's color coded as well, but it doesn't display the number of slots left, so you have to go by your gut feeling of how many items the list can still take. To the right of the usables, there's either a description or statistics on what you're about to use to prevent scenarios, for example, where a newcomer wants to equip the Envirosuit as armor, but it is, after all, just protection from terrain-based damage. However, the game doesn't indicate whether items on the floor are ones that you use immediately or stash away for later use. This is rectified quite a bit if you've actually played Doom, and chances are you have, so don't go and try to hoard those megaspheres. Everything in the game is sprite-based. Granted, a lot of the modern versions of the older roguelikes do it too, so you don't have to abuse the look command or memorize the colors and capitalizing of letters and symbols. The sprites and their meanings aren't overwhelming or hard to learn, and indeed, you can't just use the look command to check out what or who they are. The only real exceptions to the rule are of course the newer monsters using assets that you won't recognize from Doom. As for the core gameplay itself, it's standard roguelike fare, so the controls and keybinds are easily learned and memorized if you've played similar games before. And even if you haven't, the list of commands necessary for the slaughter that awaits around the corner isn't exactly huge. One of the extreme quotations here, problems that I run into is how fast I end up playing this game. Roguelikes normally favor the slow and smart line of play, and while it's definitely the case here as well, as in, during a fight it's prudent to check on enemy health, your own status, condition of your armor, and the amount of ammo you have left. But nope, the old idiot me just barges in by gut feeling, mashing my way through the numpad and spamming F and R to fire and reload respectively. It results in a lot of quick deaths even on the lower difficulty settings. Yet, once I put in the time and actually try to do the smarter plays, I get further and further. And that's the main drive in the genre. It's more about personal progression than anything else, since eventually you learn to utilize what little you have against anything the game might throw at you. Speaking of learning, the classes and traits are up next. The minute bonuses between the Marine, Scout and the Technician vary from pickup durations to extra speed and item mods. But the main feature of the class system ties to the traits. So each time you level up you get to spend a point in the trait tree where the bonuses vary once again, from all manners of speed bonuses to damage upgrades to knockback resistances and so on. You can pick freely from the basic tier talents, but should you specialize in something and pick up the required traits to progress in the talent tree, it locks you out of some choices. This of course means that some enemies are inherently more of a threat than the others, and the challenge is always present. You can become an overpowered god of death, but the game tries its hardest to kill you before you reach that point. And the monsters it uses to get there, oh boy, the whole cast of Doom naturally makes an appearance, but there are original spins on some of them, in addition to some completely new foes that I really don't want to spoil. They also delve deeper into its past games and borrow other works of fiction liberally here and there, but nothing feels out of place. I mean, it is hell after all. The stages follow suit as well, Phobos, Deimos and Heck itself, in addition to heaps of optional levels with extra rewards with, at the times, unconventional means of entrance, lengthen the lifespan of the game quite a lot. Just don't expect to be able to delve into every dungeon, loot all they have to offer and then live to tell the tale. There's really a lot of these optional areas that you might want to skip, but if you do, you can't return to them on the same run. The only way forward is forward. Even some of the original Doom's levels make a 2D return in a remarkably accurate format as well, and the music is there too. Some original tracks, in addition to fitting tunes by various artists, add some real cacophonous oral torment in the mix. And it is curious how much this all retains the spirit of Doom, even through the dichotomy of high-octane action and the slow and methodical roguelike gameplay. Now then, let's take a little bit of a deeper look on the gameplay elements. How does it really run? What happens underneath the surface? It's fair to say once again that roguelike games are hard to get into with the oftentimes overwhelming amount of components and minute details working in the background. Speed modifiers and time-based actions from moving to reloading are admittedly hard to catch, but those are on the more erudite side of things for those who really want to get into the game. But the most relevant elements are very easy to grasp with the simple damage dice, the percentage-based durability of armor in the equipment screen, as well as the descriptions on what does what. Weapons, while straightforward to learn and use, can be modified with modification packs found throughout the levels, and as you progress and visit the occasional extra stages, you might even find blueprints of combinations of mods that create a weapon that is oftentimes more powerful than the core weapon you use as the base. You could of course look at the game's own fan wiki to find them as well, but the ones you actually discover in-game by yourself are always listed in a separate menu. To name a few examples, slap 2 power mods on a basic shotgun and you got yourself an elephant gun. Put 2 agility mods on a simplest piece of green armor and it becomes a low protection but movement enhancing armor that repairs itself. Some of these modifications naturally fit different playstyles, but some of them make for handy sidearms or absolute fuck-off cannons for shredding boss-type enemies, which you'll find at the end of the episodes and in certain extra levels as well. So to summarize or reiterate, the game has a lot of features to master, namely the character builds, if you will, the speed and time units of actions and monsters, and of course the gameplay tricks like shooting at enemies in the fog of war or around corners. Should you get hooked and look for replayability, there's challenges that restrict your playstyle severely, like ones where your only viable way of combat is melee and so on. There are, of course, also different difficulty settings to choose from, which can and will eventually lead to different win conditions, which I don't want to spoil. All in all, it's a really freaking good game, and I haven't even cleared it on the hardest settings despite playing it on and off for a good handful of years. I mean, Hell, I flunked a good handful of courses while studying, since the practice of the art of hellspawn slaughter is, of course, more important than learning how to format documents to adhere to the standards of academic papers. So yeah, plenty of good memories on this one, and no doubt a lot more to come. Speaking of things to come, the Chaos Forge team launched a Kickstarter some time ago to fund the creation of a spiritual sequel by the name of Jupiter Hell. It looks to offer a lot more of the very same things that makes Doom RL a good game, with the extra polish that dedicated development can bring. Go check it out, I know I'm looking forward to it. And that's Doom the Roguelike, or Doom RL, or rather DRL if you adhere to the copyright of ZeniMax Media. A stellar game that deserves a good sit down and play session. If you get into it, you really get into it. And if you don't, well, yeah. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in hell.